I love baseball. I love baseball in the summer. I love baseball in early August because that means all the trades are done. We have a clear road to October, and we have to analyze and let the people know what's about to happen. And you have my guy, Alex Young, with me to do all of that. Alex, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to talk to you again. Talking baseball trade deadline. It was crazy this year. Probably the craziest, I think, in a really long time in terms of some players that got moved, and we'll talk all about that. But I'm excited to talk about some baseball, talk about your Yankees and my Mets, and
Mm-hmm.
talk about the trade deadline, what we think is going to happen going forward.
For sure, for sure. As we start this new season of new shows and stuff and all of that. So, Alex, I think the first thing it's fair to talk about that sadly, late last night, late baseball lost one of its true pioneers, Vin Scully, the face, or I should say, the voice of both Brooklyn and Los Angeles Dodgers for 67 seasons, and still get the real good profile. He was tweeting up till May, and obviously not only done baseball, he's done the NFL, the famous catch called the catch in the NFC Championship 81, Cowboys and 49ers. He's done golf, but I think it's fair to say he's most notable and is he's most recognized in baseball. And I just want to go a few minutes. How do you feel about that as we offer our condolences to his family? But to you, Alex, who's been a baseball fan for a long time, what does Vince Scully mean to you, even at this stage of your life?
I mean, yeah, getting that last night, I made an Instagram post on my story, just saying that, to me, he's the greatest voice in baseball, and um, you know, one of the greatest announcers in sports history, period,
Mm-hmm.
across the board. And just seeing on Twitter all the various different things on how he could call a game but tell amazing stories, and
Yeah,
still be right in there talking about the game, was inspiring for me. It's inspiring probably to you as well. We both
most
started wanting to be
definitely.
behind the mic and talking, and for me, Vince Scully was one of those guys. There's people that I look up to. Now I'm in production, I'm behind the scenes, but when I was growing up, the Vin Scully's, the Stuart Scotts of the world,
Mm-hmm.
Scott Van Pelt for me as well. There's so many names I can read, but Vin Scully was a guy for baseball. Gary Cohen, another one for baseball for me too. But Vin Scully was the guy that, I always, every time I would hear him, I would just think baseball, right? That was just
Yeah.
baseball. It was always baseball. Like, even I've seen other sports, it was always baseball for me. So he really was a pioneer, and just seeing all those stories, and obviously for me as a Mets fan, I was young when this happened. I wasn't even born when this happened, but just young, seeing it for the first time as my dad was showing me the '86 Mets and their run. Obviously he had the Buckner call, and I forgot that he was on the call for that
Mm-hmm.
game. I was thinking it was someone else, but him on the call for that. So every time now he's synonymous with Mets history because he was on the call for the rally,
Right.
and the Buckner through the legs call. So um we definitely did lose a pioneer, and a guy who was inspiring to so many. But just the fact, like you said, he was the voice of the Brooklyn Dodgers and
Mm-hmm.
the LA Dodgers for all those years. And there was a really cool picture I saw of him and Jackie Robinson ice skating together.
Wow.
When he was younger, obviously, was something that you really don't understand how ingrained in history he was. And it's kind of crazy to talk a different sport, but with basketball in the same week, we lose a pioneer in basketball,
Yes.
Bill Russell, and then only a few days later, we lose another pioneer in baseball with Vin Scully. So two tremendous losses to their respective sports, but just an inspiration for so many of us, and the man that, with Vin Scully, that we'll truly miss, because him, when he retired, was such a sad day for everyone because we were hearing him for all of our lives, and the fact that he spanned so many generations of baseball fans alike, was truly incredible. So definitely a sad loss. And Matt, I know you probably have some words on Vin, but for me, just a guy who's just inspiration for something I want to do in my career and to be in sports. And to lose him, obviously was a sad night for me last night.
Yeah, I think you hit everything on the nail that I pretty much feel that this guy is he made I think I understand baseball as a sport can be pretty boring, even for us. There are some
Yeah.
times, but when you have somebody who can tell these stories, this guy with like one of the things you appreciate with somebody who, I don't want, if for lack of a better word, who's lived a long life, that they know how people interact and stuff, and through history, and even the little stories you could get on YouTube. I think that is really cool, and something that he made for a sport that can get tedious at times. I think that's one of the things to admire from Mr. Scully. And I happened to, like a month ago, I was just in a YouTube rabbit hole and I saw his last game, and he talked about how, I might, if I remember the story correctly, it was his last game doing one of these stories, and it was in the late 30s when he saw an ad about being a broadcaster for the first time. He's like, you know what, I could do that too. I think he said it was like the 1937 World Series, and that's what, 85 years ago,
Yeah.
and he lived to tell that. So this guy made it entertaining. This guy was just so fun, and he was a fun Twitter follow for anyone who checked out. Like I said, he's tweeting up till May and would tell these stories, and I think it's admirable for a life well lived, and that how important it is to take care of yourself, to live to 94 and still have your wits. I think that's something to admire too, and he will be surely be missed. And that just shows, hey, if you could do it, why not you? And that's the story he said in that glimpse 85 years ago. If you could do it, why not you? And also, it's fair to say also too, for rest in peace, Bill Russell, the best winner of all the sports, 11 NBA finals. I would talk about another pioneer, an amazing center, and again, a true ambassador of the game. And he lived it right. Sadly, gone at 88, but I think everybody who's a true basketball fan knows who Bill Russell is. And you'll always have that debate of the greatest basketball players of all time. And especially if you get to Mount Rushmore, Bill Russell will always be in that list with your MJs and LeBrons, but Kareem's. But Bill Russell's that guy. And also, just love to give you the floor before we talk trades about Bill Russell's impact to you, Alex, especially.
Definitely I could dive into some Bill Russell. When he passed away, I mean, I got lucky enough to kind of, with my job working at the NBA, to kind of sit back and be in some recordings with him, and hear him and hear these stories that he had. And he definitely was a nice guy. Anyone that knew him, I think everyone said how nice and funny he was, and the wit that he had. But to me, obviously as an NBA fan and working at the NBA and knowing his impact on the court as being, as you said, obviously the greatest champion in our sports history, in the NBA's history, but in sports history, to me, his impact was more off the court, in his civil rights movement, and everything he did there. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for guys like Martin Luther King and athletes like Bill Russell and Jackie Robinson and things like that. I'm a descendant of a proud African-American dad, and I have a mom who's white. And without that, I wouldn't be here today, without their fight. And so for me, Bill just has a special place in my heart because he fought for African-American rights, and for generations after, to live normal lives and to be treated fairly. And I know there's still a fight for that, and there's still struggles through that, but it's been better than it was. And if it wasn't for him like that, and for Martin Luther King and things like that, I wouldn't be here. So Bill, obviously, I hold him in tremendous esteem. Just looking up to him, obviously as the greatest champion in the NBA, and us being basketball fans, just seeing his impact on the court. He was the most, one of the most dominant players we've seen. And seeing some of these highlights that come out now, the black and white highlights, some of the moves that he had, we've seen that it would have broke social media. He was doing things that were insane, right? So at his time. And like I said, he had such amazing stories, such an amazing career. But I think a lot of people said his impact was really felt off the court, and everything he had to deal with, from racism in his own city, and everything he had to deal there, and racism in the country, and the way that he fought for rights for everyone, and to teach everyone, through tremendous adversity, how to be a stand-up individual, and to really be the best person you can be despite tremendous odds and adversity, like I said, is something to admire. And, it was just such a sad day because, like I said, the same with Vin Scully last night, the other day, just reflecting on the career of Bill Russell and such his tremendous impact. We really are losing a lot of greats, and it's sad. But to me, Bill will always have a special place in my heart just because of everything that he did, both on and off the court.
I love that, man. I really do. And not much to follow after that, but as per usual, Mr. Young, you know what to say in representing someone's impact, and we will never forget Bill Russell and Vin Scully, respectfully. So let's talk some trades now. Where do I go? From Soto to the Yankees. Oh, let's talk about your Mets. Let's make fun of your Mets, Alex. I mean, it's easier for me to say this, but I know the Mets are over 30 games over 500, and it seems like they let the fan base down. Mr. Billy Epler. I heard for a long time Stevie Cohen's Uncle Stevie's beautiful money, but yet it has resulted in definitely the team's better. Won't take away, but maybe it's our selfishness that people just want big names. So does this go over? You got Daniel Vogelbach from the Pirates for Corey Holderman, who people felt had a lot of potential. Tyler Naquin joins the squad from the Cincinnati. You get Darren Ruff right before the deadline, going a veteran outfielder DH hybrid from the Giants. And you also get Michael Givens from the Cubs. Going into it, everyone said bullpen. We need bullpen. We need bullpen. When you had David Peterson, the starter, going in the Subway Series in the 8th inning, it's fair to say that something has to change. And you also needed some upgrades at the DH level, and that's where Naquin and Ruff come in, and Vogelbach. And then the big reliever you needed, you get Michael Givens. So that's the rundown here. Alex, are you upset? Are you annoyed? When you have people like David Robinson as a target, he goes to the Phillies in division. You needed an upgrade at catcher, James McCann, Nitto, and but the very hard name to pronounce.
What are you saying for catcher? You have Nito, McCann, and what's his name? Mazika.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have Wilson Contreras available. He doesn't even go. He's not traded at all. So this is what you got, Alex. Now, I said this team is leading the division, and this team, I think, can still win a World Series. But I'll let the floor to you, Alex. How do you feel about the front office, this deadline? And if you could give me like a grade from F to A, I'd like to hear what would you give the deadline for now?
Initially, like a C plus, B minus at most. It was definitely underwhelming just seeing, and we'll obviously talk Yankees, like seeing what the Yankees did, seeing what the Braves did, and seeing what the Phillies did. Like everyone around us were making big moves, decent moves. And the Yankees will always talk because that's your team, but for the Mets, there's obviously needs here. We needed like a consistent bat, and I understand we're getting depth bat, Vogelbach, Naquin, Ruff. We need bullpen. We got Givens. Like, I understand there are little holes here, but we need a lefty reliever. We have Joey Rodriguez, who hasn't looked great since the first half of the season. He's been all over the place.
He can only dance. That's it.
That's it. And then obviously Peterson comes in and gave up the home run instantly in the Subway Series diet. He has had command issues all year. He has tremendous upside. I really like Peterson. I'm on the Peterson bandwagon. He got sent down for a little bit, try to work on his control, and he'll be back up on the team soon. But he's kind of more like a back end starter to me, not really and transitioning him to a reliever. I think he'd be more valuable to get you 5 or 6 innings than it is to have him try to get some outs, because he's more of a tempo pitcher. Let me get out of jams or get through a couple innings and I'll be good. He doesn't have the reliever mindset. So the fact that we walk away without a lefty reliever, we're looking at Chafin and things like that. And then another guy who's having a great year in Robertson, who you probably have to give up more, about much to get. It just seemed underwhelming. It was like, okay, we need some depth bats, but we didn't get like the big bat. We didn't get like the JD Martinez's of the world. We didn't get certain things. And I understand like Epler was kind of holding on to, saying that, there's some things that teams were requesting that they didn't want to go all in for. I know we have the top prospect in baseball. I think he's going to be untouchable because I think he's going to be back up in the club in a year.
And who is that for our audience, that just in case they don't know?
Francisco Alvarez. He's a catcher, best prospect. He's raking in AAA now. He's consistently hitting AAA now. He's struggled a little bit now. He's doing pretty well. Top prospect in baseball. Know that. I kept on hearing the name of Ron Mauricio, another top prospect for the Mets. He's a shortstop. Obviously, we've had Lindor for 10 years. You could probably use him and Lindor's having a great year right now. You probably could have moved a guy like Ron Mauricio and got yourself a bat or a lefty or whatever. We saw Jess Hader get moved. Like, don't think the Mets are going to be in on that, but like that's a lefty that was available that you might have been able to pitch something for the Brewers, right? So, it was just very underwhelming to me. And I understand the team's doing well. Like the team is doing incredibly well. I know we lost to the Nationals yesterday. That was kind of brutal to watch. But, it was, like I said, and we'll talk Yankees and like what I really liked about that, what they did is that the Mets clearly had some holes. And yeah, they did some bullpen help here and they got some depth bats here, but it wasn't like, we want a consistent big bat. We want a consistent power bat. We want a consistent lefty. We want they didn't do the little things to add to this team. They did like the small things, like to get the little bit of the depth help if someone gets hurt and you have a bat there that you can kind of maybe trust, right? And they're kind of power bats, but they're not like a JD Martinez or anything like that. So to be right now, initial feelings, C+ was very, very underwhelmed. I thought they were going to be one of the teams that were making a couple splash moves, but they ended up staying tight. That's fine. Like, I understand that in doing something like that, where you want to keep your future kind of intact, there's definitely some prospects that you could have moved around and gotten the pieces that you needed without suffering from the Mets' long-term future, right? You could have added now to this team that's doing clearly well in a window that you have based on Scherzer and DeGrom, and I would have added more than kind of waited like they did. So, underwhelmed, but we'll see what this team kind of does going forward with these kind of additions, and maybe, who knows, maybe these little pieces add up to being something worthwhile. You never know with baseball. We saw what the Braves did last year. No one thought the moves they did last year was tremendous. They add a bunch of bats here, that, the other thing, and the next thing you know, they go on a World Series run, right? So I never really know with baseball. Maybe these little moves add to something incredible. All these guys turn it around and do great. You never know with the sport, but definitely underwhelmed with it. Again, with the key thing for me with not getting a lefty reliever. That was the big thing that I kind of felt we really, really needed with this team. And the fact we walked away at the trade deadline without getting and securing one was kind of the place that I felt was the most frustrating as a Mets fan.
And you don't feel like, oh man, this is a sign to come if Epler's going to do just what the Wilpons would have done. Do you think that's the case? Or is this just a specific, I don't want to give these prospects up, we're fine with what we have, but say it doesn't end well, do you think like, damn, no matter what, the Mets are still going to be conservative despite having your billionaire owner?
I don't think it was that. I think from what it seems like Epler was saying, that the price tag for some of these players that they were looking at was too high to what they thought their value would be. So I don't know what the Tigers wanted for like Chafin, or like I really didn't know what the case would be for there, right? They could have asked for Mauricio and a bunch of top 10 prospects, and the Mets were like, he's a rental. He's only going to be here for a year or two. We're not giving up all this for him, right? So you can't really know. He just said that the price tag was worth it. So I don't think, that they're going to be conservative going forward. If the team is like how the Yankees are looking, I think they're going to go all in and they'll be more. But I think this year, with what maybe was on the market for what they're looking, they just thought, hey, let's kind of keep everything here. And then if something really big happens in the next year or two, then we'll go all in. But cool. I think they're going to not be like the Wilpons, where they're just like yeah, we're just going to sit here and do nothing. I think they're going to do stuff, but I think it really depends on it being the smart decision. They don't want another Brody stuff where they just fire away their home farm system and it just never really worked out. Although Edwin's been great this year. I'm not saying that. I've loved Edwin, and I felt like, you know, eventually everything would come together, and luckily it has this year. But the year that Brody was just firing off prospects for things and everyone was like, what are you doing here? What, you know, like kind of deal, like that was kind of the confusing thing. But I think this group is kind of waiting to see what kind of happens and develops, and this team's doing well, and they maybe didn't want to shift up the locker room too much, but you never know. I just think that they were saying that the people are looking at the asking price was too high, and they decided to sit this one out. Maybe next year they change that and say, you know what, we'll go all in and fire it off, and because we want to try to get a title. You know, you can never really know.
Okay, I see. And on the last two things I have, so with the Mets prospects, looking at the prospects now, Alvarez, do you expect to see him in a Mets uniform this season? It says here that they expect next season, but do you think this will be the year he gets called up?
It's tough. I really, really want to see him. I think catcher has been a weak spot for this team. I think I'm more of a why not and see how he does. But
right? Like
also,
what Conforto did in the 15 season, went straight from Double-A to there.
Yeah. So I'm more of maybe have him as a September call up, see how he looks, and if he's incredible, obviously you have your catcher for the next few years. If he struggles, you know, come playoff time, you maybe not have him on the playoff roster. But I would like to see him on the major league level at some point this year, just to see him get some at bats and see how he is. But I completely understand if the team doesn't want to rush him up to the majors and potentially, you know, get him his confidence down or anything like that. We've seen that with so many prospects over the last few years that they get called up too early and then they kind of never are the same, right? Their confidence is down. They try to switch too many things, and then by the time they're up, they're not great. So we've seen that with Mets prospects in the past too. So I'm a little bit weary. So I think, you know, if he continues to rank on AAA this year, I think maybe see how he is as a September call up. But if not, I'm okay with them waiting until, you know, the start of spring training next year to really get him kind of up to speed to be, you know, the catcher for the Mets. But me personally, being a selfish Mets fan, I want to see him up this year, but I can understand if they want to wait and let him develop some more.
Awesome. And then people are saying that if they weren't make a big move, that the fifth ranked prospect, Mark Vientos, plays third outfielder and first, that he should get called up now, and they say he's ready. You excited about him? I don't know too much about him besides the name. Do you think there's any room for him, or there's anything to be excited about? And where do you exactly put him on this roster?
I mean, I think moving JD Davis kind of opens it up a little bit for him to potentially get some reps at round third this year. I mean, looking at his scouting grades now. I mean, they're off the charts really well in terms of hitting 50, hitting 60 power, arm 60, field. I mean, fielding needs a little bit of improvement there, it looks like. But you know, I just think, I'm looking, you know, last year in Double-A and Triple-A, batted 281, 25 home runs over 83 games. I mean, I think he just has home run power. He has a good swing. I would think he would have room to potentially play around third, maybe be a DH, and if not, it's getting strokes at first, but it's kind of a logjam at first with Vogelbach and Alonso now. But I think third has been a spot that has been a weak spot. So if his fielding has improved and he's done well, I think you can get him some reps late this year around at third. But I think the future is bright, and I think that's why the Mets didn't want to move off some of these prospects, is because they know they have some great, all around hitters coming through the system, and I think they kind of want to see their potential here in Mets uniforms. Whereas, if this was Brody regime, you'd be slipping off Vientos for nothing. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for some other guys. Brett Beatty, when he comes up, I really liked him when they drafted him. From looking at Vientos, I think he could be able to be ready relatively soon. I'd like to see him get reps around third base, but we'll have to see. I mean, it's just like, he could be a utility guy for this team. But I think that's a guy that could get some reps later on in the year after the JD Davis move. Now that they know they kind of have some room to get some reps for him around third if they want to kind of focus on him doing that.
All right. Excellent stuff there. Now let's go to the Yankees. Yankees are having a historic season. Judge might pass Barry Bonds the way he's playing. You cannot be more excited if you're someone in my position, being a huge Yankee fan, despite losing to teams like the Astros and then getting swept by the Mets. You cannot be too heartbroken right now. The Yankees coming into this, there were still some holes. It wasn't a perfect team despite winning. They needed a starting pitcher. Brian Cashman gets him. Frankie Montez, especially when he has experience against Houston, who's clearly going to be the final boss, if you will, to get to a World Series finally. We needed a outfielder. Joey Gallo literally completed his reign as the worst Yankee statistically ever. I don't know. Did you happen to see that depressing interview he did?
Yeah.
The print interview.
Yeah.
Didn't want to leave his apartment.
Yeah.
Every time he's going to see a Yankee hat, it'll be sad. I mean, I definitely do feel bad, but he has $10 million coming to him, so he'll be okay. And he goes to the Dodgers. So, I mean, wow. But anyways, we get Andrew Benintendi to replace him. And then, with Stanton's injuries, though Hicks has been hitting, he definitely was not looking good at first, but Andrew Benintendi joins the Yankees. Then we also needed some bullpen arms. We got Efros from the Cubs, who's looking good. We got even Harrison Bader, who once he recovers from his foot injury, that guy is like a 99 speed overall. Like he can feel it. I think he's from the city actually. And it's really exciting for the Yankees. And we also got another Trevino. Even though people were concerned about some of his not stellar numbers in Oakland, maybe a change of scenery can help. But Cashman pulls off all these moves without giving up a top 15 prospect. He's really good at convincing teams, yeah, give a chance on this guy, even if those players don't work out for us either. But Cashman strikes again on his contract year as the GM and gets exactly what we need. And now we just sit and wait to see what's going on. So, I mean, there's not really much to complain about the Yankees because of that. And all I could say, being a Yankee fan, I am really, really satisfied for this team. Already has 70 wins in as August begins. And yeah, I mean, what I can't think of a problem. Boone's been managing better. I know Clay Holmes has been not having a few good outings lately, but hopefully he could calm down. Already mentioned Judge. I mean, he might pass Bonds the way he's going, but I just want him to at least get 62. And yeah, just waiting for Stanton to come back so we can know what this lineup will look like if all healthy. And let's go Yankee baseball. That's my little monologue regarding the Bombers. How do you feel about it on your side?
I mean, I was texting a buddy of mine who's, a huge Yankee fan like yourself. And, it was funny because, like, right before the Montas trade, you guys get the relief pitcher. And I was like, okay, you get your bat in Benintendi. You get Efros, your bullpen help. And then I was like, who's going to be the starting pitcher you go after? Is it going to be Montas or is it going to be Rondon, right? And literally within like 30 minutes of that text, it was like, Frankie Montas goes to the Yankees. I'm like, well, there you have it, right? Like, all their needs they hit, and they added Lou Trevino, and like you said, struggled a little bit, but you get Montas and you get Trevino, but you get your main bullpen arm to kind of replace Michael King and Efros, right? Like you get your main guy, and Trevino is kind of just like added to it, right? It's just like bullpen depth, like that's
can't have too much pitching.
You can't have too much pitching, right? And I understand you guys got rid of Montgomery.
That was the only thing I was going to mention. That was very weird.
That was, I thought, was a little bizarre. I mean, I like Bader a lot. I think he's a great defensive outfielder. He grew once he's healthy. But the fact that he has, plantar fasciitis, he's going to be out until maybe the end of the season.
That's what Wright had.
yeah, it's just can be really tough. Especially for a center fielder, just planting on your feet and all the time. It's like
Mhm.
it can really bother you. So I know Montgomery had a really good start and then he kind of fell off recently. So, you know, I was kind of surprised by that. I thought he was going to be kind of part of this rotation going forward, but maybe they like Herman and Clark Schmidt. Maybe we'll get some more opportunities going forward. That was the only weird thing for me in all this. I like the move. If Bader was healthy, I would have really liked the move. The fact that he's hurt was kind of weirdly taken away from the rotation. But the fact that the Yankees hit every single part of a need, right? They needed a rotation arm, they got a rotation arm. They needed bullpen help, they got bullpen help. They needed a bat, the more contact spray bat instead of the home run or nothing bat. They get Andrew Benintendi, right? And the fact that Cashman didn't give up a ton of prospects, like top 10 prospects. I was thinking left and right Montas, you're going to maybe have to give up some of your guys, Estevez or, whoever, Volpe, whoever the case might be,
Mhm.
That might be the case. But the fact that you guys kind of danced around with like your 7 and your, fifth or whatever, your 10th or whoever, like you didn't have to give up your big names. I thought Cashman did a really good job in terms of doing that. So overall, if I'm a Yankee fan, I would be extremely happy. I think they really geared up for this run. That the only thing that that surprised me was the Bader trade, just the move off the rotation. But the fact that you guys, like I said, I'm looking at your prospect list. You still have Volpe, Peraza, Dominguez.
Mhm.
Your big three. Great job by Cashman, but not having to give up the amount of people that a lot of other teams were giving up for some of these arms.
Yeah, let's get it. And I guess for now, if we're gonna look at if we're going through October, which is all this matters for, you have Cole and Nestor Cortez 1 and 2. I think we'll wait till the end of the season who actually gets that start because it's fair to say that hey, maybe Cortez starts game 1. I mean, obviously it should be Cole, but we know he despite being an all-star, it's hard to trust him at the moment after failing in Boston. So who knows what that could be. Obviously, you have Montez coming in. Tyone, maybe if you want to do that 4 starter in a game 4 scenario, maybe. I know he's definitely had his struggles, but when he's on, and he's like DeGrom, he has a hard time getting run support when he pitches. But at least we have those 3 solid, Montez, Cortez, and Cole. And we still have, a couple months to go. And then there's rumors with Zach Britton coming back. If he could be anything like the player he was, despite giving up the big, blowing it, and when he was in Baltimore, Toronto, I think that's something to watch out for. Don't forget. And yeah, like I said, it's gonna be a good time. There's nothing to worry about. I mean, Marinchino looks really good, the young guy, and I mean, let's enjoy it. Like I said, there's nothing really to be upset about. I do think the Yankees are trying to win their games, and it's pretty easy when you have a 12-game lead if front, and all we could think about is Houston, and that's one thing we can discuss. Houston also made moves. They get Trey Mancini with some big help. Are you one of these people who are upset at the Orioles? With the expanded playoffs, you're at 500 at this point. You know, I think what were they with only just a few games back of the wild card? Why would you trade, one of your best players? Do you have a problem with that? As I've noticed some people on Twitter saying, and then you give them to Houston, which only gives me a little heart attack.
I'm not as mad. I have a coworker. I have to talk with him soon about how he feels. He's an Orioles fan.
Loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not as mad as some people are. I mean, if sometimes if you see the writing on the wall, right, with teams, and I know they're playing above expectations and they're above 500 or they're around 500, but there's no way they're catching the Yankees to win the division, and they have to chase for a wild card spot. So sometimes, and I'm just looking at the standings here. It's just that sometimes teams decide, let's get some stuff back for our talent because trying to battle for a wild card spot might not even be worth it at this point. And I understand for being, an Orioles fan. You're, a game and a half back from a wild card spot, but you're going up against Toronto, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Cleveland. So those are 4 pretty solid teams. So maybe they just saw the writing on the wall that, like, yeah, we're exceeding expectations, doing well, but let's add to our future. Let's get some talent, because if you look across for what the Orioles have coming in these next few years, you're seeing Ali Rutschman. He's developing his swing and he's looking good right now. But then they have some really, really good prospects coming over these next few years. So maybe thought, let's just add to the farm system now. Trey Mancini's been, such a great guy. Obviously, his story is incredible. Just a franchise icon for the Orioles. But it was maybe time. Let's move on from him and get some prospects, because our future looking bright and this team's exceeding expectations. So now let's try to get talent here to add to our future pool, because they know this team, future could be pretty solid going forward. So I'm not as mad as some people are, them selling. I wasn't really surprised at them selling, because there's teams like that kind of look in their fringe wild card team, and sometimes they just think, looking at the other things, they're maybe not compete. So, I'm gonna say I'm not as mad. I completely understand where the Orioles are coming from. I just know I feel for the fans, because they probably are thinking, we just threw in the towel. But you never know. You never know with teams. You can get rid of some pieces and they can still be a great team. So, we'll have to see with them. But I'm not going to be. I wasn't furious of what the heck are the Orioles doing? They're fighting for the wild card. They're not going. If they're going for the division, that's different. But fighting for the wild card, I could understand why they kind of started to move off some pieces to try to add to their farm system.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the big blockbuster trade. AJ Preller is the general manager of the San Diego Padres. I think he shows you that if you have the money and the will, go for it. And that's what Mr. Preller has done in when it was announced that Soto declined these mega extensions, that the Nationals said, you know what, forget this guy. Let's just get rid of him. And what happens? There's a huge battle. Some people thought maybe the Yankees, even though I never really wanted that. Selfishly, I want a Judge. I mean, Judge would definitely go. I want Judge to be the outfielder, even though obviously logic puts you definitely want the younger guy. I'll let my one bias go for that. That goes. Some people said maybe the Mets, but who wants to trade in division?
Yeah, they weren't going to trade in the division.
And then it came down to the Cardinals, Padres, and Dodgers, and the Padres win the bid. And Juan Soto and Josh Bell, the best 2 players on the Nationals, go to San Diego. Now you're going to have a lineup where the Padres have Juan Soto, and with 2 years of control, Josh Bell. You have Machado. You have Tatis when he comes back, with stellar starting pitching. And then you also add a very hot Brandon Drury in the mix as well. The Padres, even though they are way behind the Dodgers, I think they're 8 games back, they're still going for it. And they want to give this fan base a World Series that they never had. What do you think about this huge blockbuster deal? Do you think this is one of the biggest trades in MLB history? And I know it's 2 years from now until he actually is eligible for a new contract at the young age of 25. But is this going to change everything? Juan Soto going to the Padres?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when was the last time we saw a 23-year-old superstar get moved from his team? I think it's the first time ever. I think I saw a tweet where it was like Juan Soto is like the first player to be like, all-star, blah, blah, blah. And
he has a World Series.
Then a World Series champion, all this stuff. And before 23, and he's traded to a new team. Like,
yeah, right.
And just looking at the scope of things and just broader picture, the fact that the Nationals had the amount of talent they had at one time with Bryce Harper, Soto, Trey Turner, Max Scherzer, and they're all gone within a few years is just insane to me.
Yeah, they're the thunder of the MLB in that
pretty
sense.
Much, yeah. So it's unfortunate for them. I mean, I'm a Mets fan. I have a little bias. I'm a little happy that Juan Soto and Josh Bell are out of the division finally.
Never have to see him again.
Yeah, for a while. Maybe until the playoffs. But it does change the landscape. And the Padres went all in. They went all in, and
Yes,
you know,
they
we've
gave their
kind of
top
seen it
some of their
coming.
top prospects for
Yeah.
them, right? They
I
gave
mean,
them their
yeah,
top.
they gave up
Three.
like I'm gonna look right now for you, but like I think Mackenzie Gore was their top guy. And then the other guys were all like within the top five. 1 second for you. But they gave up a good amount. And they gave Luke, I think I mean they
Yeah,
were supposed to give up Hosmer, but I think they ended up doing Luke Vogt because Hosmer wasn't give it up. So
yeah. He
um
uses no trade clause, and hey, he earned it. So I don't blame him.
let me see. They might have updated the site since then. So let me nationals.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
also have it here too with Mackenzie
yeah,
Gore, left-handed pitcher, number one, Robert
yeah.
Hassel the third, and CJ Abrams.
Yeah, here we go. I just got it. So yeah, I mean, Robert Hassel is the number one now in the Nationals. All these guys that they got CJ Abrams, who was supposedly going to be up in this team soon. He might be actually up. This is the way how the Nationals need talent. So they're kind of re-ranking everything right now. But yeah, they gave up Mackenzie Gore, who's a great left-hander, Hassel, who's a great bat. CJ Abrams should be up soon. Another outfielder, James Wood, who I've heard good things about, and then another pitcher in Jarlin Susana. So they gave up a lot, and Luke Voigt. All right, so they gave up a good amount. A lot of people I know are a little disappointed in the return. I feel like people thought there was going to be more. So Abrams was the top. So I'm reading this article now. Abrams was the top prospect before this trade. Hassel was the number 2. Woods is number 4. Susanna is number 10, and then Gore was their top pitching prospect, but he was pitching at the major league level this year, and then he got hurt. So he was looking pretty good before he got hurt. So good haul for me at least. But some people were still disappointed because it's a 23-year-old and their prospects, right? And I tell everyone that there's people out there that argue certain things about prospects. You should keep them, blah blah blah. Blah blah. You never know what's going to happen. You can
Yeah,
have a top prospect. We see so many top prospects flame out, right, of the league. You never know. So I'm surprised that the Nationals didn't try to get some more like sure things and then get these top prospects on top of that when you're trading 2 all-stars pretty much. And Juan Soto, who's obviously been a perennial all-star, World Series champion, and Josh Bell, who's had talent and been incredible this year. So I'm surprised they didn't get more sure MLB talent. They only got like 1 MLB talent, technically 2 with Mackenzie Gore, but 1 and not get more and then add those Mackenzie Gores and the Hassels and everything on top of that. So I think it really does shift the dynamic of the league. I mean, you look now going forward. I mean, like you said, Soto's still year 2, Control left, Bell. I think what is he? Is this a rental? I don't know.
he's a rental.
He's a rental. And then you got Tatis, who you have signed long term. You have Machado, who you have extended. You have certain names out there. So and you got Jake Cronenworth. You got time. You have more. You get Drury. They have this pitching talent. So this team is looking going forward like it's going to be a stacked team, right? He went. The Padres GM went all in, and he lands a 23-year-old superstar and lands another rental, and they're going all in. I mean, I know they're not going to chase the Dodgers. The Dodgers done extremely well, but they're going to solidify a wild card spot, and they're going to be a team to look out for sure going forward. I mean, not even just this year, but next year they're going to try to be, the team that's being the front runner of the division. They're trying to push the Dodgers, and it's going to be very interesting to see. But you never see this often, and I don't think we'll ever see this ever again, potentially. You don't see too many guys turn down 15-year, $440 million contracts. But he can figure what he wants when he's with the Padres for these next 2 years. And I feel the Padres are going to give him an extension too. And your future, you have 2 guys, Fernando Tatis Jr. and Juan Soto. Wild
That's
to think
nuts.
about for the next 10 years on your team. 2 young superstars on your team. It's just crazy to think about. But yeah.
How can you not expect this team to win the pennant at this point? And it's funny, they're both the exact same age too. They're both 23. Yeah. And so I guess it just shows, and that's probably what's frustrating. Maybe not in this case for like the Mets when you see like Billy Epler, and because they are doing so well, but it just shows if a GM really gives a damn, with, for lack of a better term, they can make these moves. unlike your Oaklands, who are just literally waiting to get kicked out of that city. Whether you're like a Kansas City or the Pirates, especially,
Yeah.
it's sad that some people literally look at these teams as a business. And of course, sports is a business. Don't take that away. But what about the competition aspect too?
Yeah.
Giving something for your fan base. And I think that's what's cool about the GM of the Padres and Eller for going for it. And he made a lot of moves last season, last deadline too. And well, if you want it, go for it. And you can only wait and see if this Padre team can finally reach its potential, because people thought that when Cosmer was coming and then when Machado initially, and they really haven't broken the levy yet. But if this can't do it, then I don't know. The Padres might have to leave.
Yeah.
Too.
I don't know.
If
That'd be wild.
Vegas 2 teams, go to Nashville. But this should be exciting. And just some other moves that we haven't mentioned yet before. One more thing I want to talk about. The Twins made a lot of strides. Don't forget, I mean, they are leading their division, but I feel like they've been quiet. I mean, you have Correa there, Gary Sanchez and stuff, and now they added people like Jorge Lopez, another deal from Baltimore, who's a stellar closer. You have Noah Syndergaard going to the Phillies. You finally want to get that revenge against him, Alex.
Yeah,
he's bound to finally start against it. You can't push him away.
Yeah, you get. Well, now you can't. I mean, I know he's on a 1-year deal, so maybe he'll flee again. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, yeah, I want to get that revenge against him. Obviously the Phillies gave up Mickey Moniak, former first overall pick, so we'll see how he does with the Angels. But yeah, I mean, I want to get our revenge on Syndergaard. It would just feel great after him kind of chirping on his way out, which I thought was bizarre. Because none of us Mets fans had any hard feelings towards him.
Right.
And I don't know why he kind of was chirping and saying some things he has recently, because we loved him. He was Thor. He was our guy. We really liked him. And after he kind of left, I kind of was like, I don't want to really follow you anymore. I don't really want to hear from you. It was just kind of bizarre. So eventually I do want to see him play the Mets, and I want to get like 10 runs against him. I just want to,
of course,
go and show out.
That's going to be a hot ticket.
Yeah. So we'll see when that comes down, because you obviously can't avoid him. And like we said, Phillies tooling for a wild card run. The Braves are going to be right behind with the moves they made. They're going to be right behind us fighting for the division. So it's going to be a fight in this, at least down the stretch, and it's going to be exciting to see. Which is why I'm a little nervous with some of the Mets, because the Braves made some moves and the Phillies made some moves as well, for sure. And like you said, with the Twins, they made some really good moves, getting some pitching, Taylor Marley and stuff like that from the Reds, and Jorge Lopez and things like that. So they're looking like they're going to try to, be a tough contender this year in the playoffs. So yeah.
And don't forget, also, the Blue Jays get some huge depth in a contact hitter. Whit Merrifield goes to the Blue Jays. None of these teams
get the vaccine for before he be a Blue Jay, but yes.
Yeah, what was that story that he said? He said, I'm on Kansas City. I don't have to worry about going to the playoffs. And then he gets traded to Toronto.
Yep.
Well, I think deep down he knows this is way better for his career.
Yeah.
And is there anyone I missed too? I think it got everybody of note at least.
Yeah, I think Rossell. I think we really talk about Rossell Iglesias going to the Braves from the Angels. I think that was a good move by the Braves. To add more depth to the bullpen. I know Kenley Jansen's been hurt, and everyone else kind of being in that closer spot has been up and down. So I think them getting Rossell Iglesias, I saw that. I was like, lovely. As a Mets fan, it was great. And then they made it. The Braves made another move. Who am I forgetting? I know Philly got David Robertson. I'm trying to think. Maybe I'm blanking on something. They get Odorizzi. That was another
Jake Odorizzi.
Which I know he's had a not so great start with Houston, and he got hurt, but he's back. And he's been up and down. But again, adding arms to their team. So I just think the Rossell Iglesias one was kind of an interesting move that I saw that I didn't see coming. Obviously an all-star kind of level closer. So now he's going to be going up against the Mets. So that's going to be interesting to see. But I think for everything else, I think we pretty much hit all the big ones for sure.
And this upcoming weekend, this is the 5-game series weekend.
Yeah,
Yankees,
yeah,
Braves. Yankees, Braves. Mets, Braves.
yeah. Mets Braves coming up right after we wrap up against the Nationals tonight. So big series. Luckily, we will have, after seeing Jacob back, which we can talk real quick. After seeing Jacob DeGrom back, super excited how he looked. Looked confident. He only pitched like 5 innings. Of course, typical Mets fashion, we give him no offense, and we end up losing that game because our bullpen blew up with some of the arms we put in that game. But he looked really good. I think he had like 4 strikeouts through 2 innings or something. So he looked good. He was hitting 99. He hit 102 in his first battle, in his first batter he faced. So he looked good. Didn't look like he had any discomfort. He looked like the Jacob DeGrom of old. Luckily with that, we'll have him in the series against the Braves. We didn't know if we're going to throw him to the wolves, if you will, against the Braves. So the fact that he had to pitch against the Nationals, kind of get his rhythm and tempo back and get confidence. And now he will go against the Braves. So we'll have Scherzer, DeGrom finally for the first time in this series coming up against the Braves. So it's very going to be a very stressful series for me as a Mets fan. But hopefully we can, walk away with a series win against them. It's a very important series coming up.
Yeah, this is it. If you want that momentum and you can't get too comfortable, because we see that the Phillies are trying to make a run for it, even the wild card spot. But as of now, at this very moment, the Mets are up 2.5 games against Atlanta, and see who wants it more. I definitely will be watching from the side, as I just have to coast with the Yankees. Already at 70 wins. I just have to watch Judge keep hitting home runs, please. And this team just grows their chemistry, and then we'll get ready for October. Because the only really series that I watch every single game, but the only other series that is of intrigue is the next Subway series at the end of August. So not much to worry about as we get ready for NFL season as well. And I guess the last thing I have to ask you, Alex, have you been watching The Captain? ESPN documentary.
I haven't yet. I'm one of those documentary guys that you like to wait for all the episodes to come out. And
Fair
I
enough. I hear that.
Back to back. The only one I really didn't do that with was Last Dance. For some reason, I was like, I met the producer at work. I need to watch your stuff. I need to see the story, right? I was like, I got to see this. So that was like Last Dance. But me, I love Derek Jeter, and I think I heard it's been a great documentary. And it's been fascinating to watch. But I'm just gonna wait for like that one so I can kind of sit and binge it all. But I've heard good things, and I'm assuming you have been watching the documentary.
Yeah. Coming into the doc, I was always gonna watch. I was excited, but I was like, the thing with Jeter, I think it's fair. When it comes to conflict, there wasn't really that much. And when you do a documentary, the point is what's the huge conflict in the middle? And for Jeter, who was able to stay away from controversy, at least we thought, I was like, what is there to expect? And now 4 episodes in, it wasn't as easy as, the media and people portrayed it to be. I was definitely interested in the obstacles he overcome, the segment with his tumultuous relationship, the really tumultuous relationship with A-Rod, winning 4 World Series in his first 5 full seasons, and then, only winning 1 in the next 15. That just shows how damn hard baseball is. And when you have something good, don't mess it up, because it'll take a long time to get it back. And with that, I think, and also just his nightlife stories and stuff like that, I think the doc is really intriguing, and even non-baseball fans would get a kick out of it. I'd love to hear what you think when it's all said and done. I think there's 3 episodes to go, 2 on, when this drops on Thursday, and then 1 more next Thursday. So you'll be excited to see what you have. But definitely watch the doc on ESPN or ESPN Plus. But yeah, we hit everything we needed to, Alex. 2 months to go with baseball. It's going to be as good as it gets. And there has to be at least one New York baseball team, preferably mine. But of course, I wouldn't mind to see the Mets in the National League, win the National League pennant, or maybe it's the Subway Series we're all waiting for. But there's a lot of steps in between, and we just have to enjoy the ride, right?
For sure. Yeah. It's going to be super exciting. And, I would love a World Series, a Subway Series World Series. So we'll
Wow.
see. Well, we got 2 months to go. There's a lot that could happen. And, but, exciting trade deadline. And, I think both our teams are going to be fun to watch, hopefully, over these last 2 months and lock up their spots for a postseason run.
Let's get it, Alex. I will be seeing you again very soon. Thank you so much for another stellar episode. And thank you again, Alex. Is there anything else you have to say?
No, thank you for having me on again, talking trade deadline, talking a little bit of everything with Bill Russell and Vin Scully. It was been a blast as always, and looking forward to another conversation. Probably maybe at the end of the regular season with baseball, or some things coming up maybe with basketball or football.
Yes,
but looking
let's
forward
do that
to
as
it.
well.
And great talk as always, and it's always been fun having and chatting with you and talking some baseball.
Thank you again, Mr. Young. I appreciate you, and I'll be seeing you very soon. Let's go. Let's have some good baseball to watch.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.